Okay, so we are going to do a recording today on how to use the Dream Hub, which is an extension on top of Dynamics 365. So, Microsoft Dynamics 365, you can see here, dynamics.microsoft.com. You can learn all about it. And there's a lot of options on what it does. It's a very, very extensive system. Today we're going to go over the sales portion, but a modified version of sales. So even though you might learn some things here on, learning about sales, you can also go to Microsoft Learn and you can look up specifically Microsoft 365 and you can look it up just for sales. So in their own documentation, they have their a lot of great tutorials just teaching you how this works. And Aisha, you have already taken a few of these, right?
Yeah, I look into the documentation and there are a lot of things.
Yeah, so for your overall career, I definitely recommend to learn these, get these certifications, and then share back with us what your certifications are. I would definitely like to see that. But in addition to that, this video today is going to go over how we personally have modified this to create what we call the Dream Hub. So if you have a membership with us, then you can go to office.com. And when you get to office.com, go down to the bottom to the All Apps area. When you go to the All Apps area, you'll see all the apps that we've given you access to. And then there is a section called Business Apps. Inside of Business Apps, we have the Dream Hub. So if you click on Dream Hub here, that's going to open up a new tab for you. And it's going to take you into the area that we call the Dream Hub. So the Dream Hub takes you through all these areas. You have discovery, relationship, empowerment, automation, and mission control. Okay, and you guys won't see the testing area. So that's DREAM. And I want you to learn how to do discovery with people, how to build relationships. This is just like Salesforce, Dynamics 365, it holds relationships together. And we build dreams for people. So you could see dowdreams.org. This is our organization that just focuses on dream building. And we have discovery, developing, and directing dreams. And these symbols, we can get in detail later on those, how we build dreams. But this is kind of the front-end interface that the clients see. And on the back end, if you want to become a dream agent with us, or if you want to build dreams, that's where you're going to learn how to use that Dream Hub. That's this area over here. So inside the Dream Hub, there are a lot of different areas in here. You have tasks for yourself, and you can assign tasks. You can assign yourself emails that you need to send, appointments you have, phone calls you have to make, letters, faxes, all kinds of stuff. Now, these can also be actions that you take. So when you click on that email there, you have access inside of this portal to go ahead and send an email directly from this portal. You have access to make a phone call directly from this. So when I hit that email there, yes, that is a task, but now it took me over to the relationship area and it took me directly to the email messages. And you can go ahead and, send something to somebody, type your email message down here. And why would you want to use this instead of something else? The main reason is we have a lot of templates in here. So you can click on Insert Template and you can find templates inside of our company. You can find templates inside of whatever organization you're working for that's a partner of ours. And then you have options over here to change the priority, the due date. If it's a draft, you can schedule this out too. It has recommendations over here. Schedule it to be sent later. Send a reminder as a follow-up. So the whole purpose of our Dream Hub, it's very hard to help a dream come true. So in the Dream Hub, we have a lot of different areas in here that help make sure that you have your tasks organized, that you can automate your tasks. And if you do send an email or communicate with somebody, it'll send you reminders. It'll notify you, hey, it's been a day since you talked to that person. Maybe you want to follow up again. And so let's go back to discovery. We have a few main areas that I want to talk about here. We have what's called the Orbital. The orbital is a section of Orbital. So every dream orbits. So let me open up, planetary orbits. And if you look at an image of how that works, how a solar system works, a solar system is going to have a sun, and then, man, that is not a good photo. It's going to have a sun, and then in addition to the sun, it's also going to have other planets that also go around it. So if we think of the sun as our main company, and then outside of our main company, there are different ideas, like Gap Company. Gap Company needs to be orbiting around our sensor company. And we need to figure out, what makes up that orbital? What's going to get it launched? What's going to get it out into the stratosphere, get it to the point that it can hold its own energy and get that perpetual motion to just stay and thrive forever? So the way we do that is inside of here. We come up with, okay, well, what is the objective of the company? What resources is it going to use? What budgets does it have? And when you first start out, you're going to do this all from what we call a transport. You're going to build a brand new transport. So the new transport that you might build could be, let's take Gap Company for example. So we can create a new one. Once we create it, it'll pop up with, Gap Company. And then we have these different methods, this one being the startup flow. So the startup flow goes through the S, the T, the A, the R, the T, the U, the P. That's the word startup. And each one is a drop down of all the things that make up the structure of that company. After you put the structure of it together, you go to the next stage, and that takes you to the think tank area, where you put a SWOT analysis together, you figure out the goal, and if you highlight these areas here, it will give you a definition of what that is. And then you can click on here if you do this or not. So, how do you organize all that information? You organize that through OneNote. So you hit the plus button on the timeline, and then you go into OneNote here. When you go into OneNote, that's going to be a notebook just for this one company. And then we recommend that you open it inside the desktop app. Yes, you could keep information in here in the web browser, but that's usually not the best way to do that. You open it in the desktop app, and then that saves that company on your computer. And I'm using multiple monitors here, so I'm going to drag my OneNote over here to this other monitor that we're recording. Okay, so Aisha has already gone through. Before she even gets started on Gap Company, she is just trying to learn how Dynamics works. But I'm just going to try to perpetuate that along to show how I would want that done. So inside Gap Company here, it opens you up into this notebook. So let's go back online, and let's get away from this. Okay, so I no longer want the notebook here, so I'm going to close this tab. But if I want to get all this information here and really fill this whole startup flow out really well, we call that actually the startup sequence. Because if you think of an orbital, if you think of a rocket launching, going into space, because that's how we get an orbital up into outer space, like a satellite. We have a lot of different ways that we launch that rocket. A lot of people think the rocket's just launched, but there's a lot of steps that go into that. Just the startup sequence is all the checks, is there fuel here? What's the pressure on this session over here? Is that door closed? What's the pressure over there? A lot of checks and balances before you actually launch. So that's what our startup sequence is. In that startup sequence, you just go through here and you answer very basic questions. And in the think tank area, when you're there, you're going to want to think tank inside of OneNote. So you'll do a SWOT analysis, and you'll go down here into OneNote, and you'll just add a new page, and you'll call that page SWOT Analysis. And if you never have done a SWOT analysis, no problem, just do a Google search. What is a SWOT analysis?
Okay.
So, what is SWOT analysis? Okay, so I'm going to copy this into my notes to help me out. And then maybe I can even see an example of it. So a SWOT analysis is actually just what you saw there. You identify your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. So you can put this in here, and as we make the Dream Hub better and better and better, we will have this stuff in here in the future. We'll have a little snippet teaching you what that is. Okay, so we have the SWOT analysis definition, and let's make an extra page, which is gap SWOT analysis. And I'm going to make that page a child page of the analysis. Cool. So just that alone, that could take you a week to come up with the SWOT analysis. Now, what the SWOT analysis should look like at the end is you really should just have 4 bubbles like this. Our strength is that we're an IT consulting firm, and IT is one of the strongest industries in the world. A weakness, we're based in a third world country. We don't have access to a lot of the Fortune 500 clients. An opportunity, we speak English, we have connections in America, we have connections in Australia, and we're part of a business incubator. A threat, okay, a threat is, we don't have business partners in the admin industry. We're led by an engineer, and he doesn't really get involved in the operations that much. So you could do your own SWOT analysis of what you think that is and put that in there. And that SWOT analysis should be updated rather often. So what you put in over here when you're done is you put in the date that you finished your SWOT analysis. So that gives the owner of the company, that gives them clarity. They say, oh wow, we haven't done a SWOT analysis since December 2021. Maybe they come back a year or two later and they're like, whoa, that's a long time for us not to have a SWOT analysis done. Let's do a new SWOT analysis. Let's update our startup sequence. Are you following on that?
Yeah.
Okay. So the goal is very big too. The goal of the framework. Think of a transport as a vehicle, and you want to take that vehicle out into outer space. But why do you have a vehicle? Why can your vehicle not sit on another vehicle and be a passenger? So I know Zane, for example, he wants his own. So let's add a new page here. And let's call it the goal. And you're going to have to talk to the business owner to figure out what their goal is. Mission, goal, purpose of transport. And I know I call it a transport. They're going to call it a company. A company to me is just a vehicle to deliver services. So why do you have that vehicle? That might be a whole week. It might just take an hour. Maybe your business owner already has their mission statement, but I would like to see it all written in here. Next is the OKRs. So the goal here also can be written out, and it should be very tiny just to fit maybe 20 words. You might have in your OneNote, you could write a whole page on what your goal is, but once you put it up here, just a sentence or so. Then your OKRs. We'll go back into OneNote and we'll have a page called OKRs. Have you worked with OKRs before? Miss Aisha?
Yeah. No, I said no.
Okay. So any of these that you don't know, just go on Google. What are OKRs? And I'll just drag that in there. Well, let me click on it. So a summary. And then it gives the link back to it. as well. So yeah, it's a framework. You identify your objectives and your key results. So you can put that in here. And this is all just think tank stuff. So objective, and if you hit tab, it automatically makes a table for you. You hit enter, it gives you another one. Key result. I'm messing it up now. So you could have multiple objectives. So our objective could be enter the US IT market. The result, establish corporation in USA. Result, have business owner live in USA. Another objective, have financial wealth for the company. A result, maybe that's not a good way to write that. We could say that's a result. Have financial wealth. Have 5 employees based in USA with full salary package. An objective could be make 250,000 USD per year. So I don't know what these are. You're going to have to talk to your own company and figure this out for your own objective and your own key result. But those are called your OKRs. Every company needs an OKR that helps identify. Yeah, your goal is more your bigger vision of what a goal is. Like your mission statement, just, okay, provide IT services to the world. Do artificial intelligence. That's a big goal. But you want to break that down into smaller objectives and the result of that objective. You follow that?
Yeah.
Okay. So then we go back here and we see, okay, what else do they want us to do? They want us to find a score representative. So I could break down each piece of this and show you each one, but you should get the idea that you go in here and you create a page per each. And I mean, that's a lot of pages. That's why it's a full-time job. Not only for you, you could have multiple people on your team that's all they do, is they just fill out this startup sequence for the company.
Okay.
And as you're doing this, you can track what you do. If you can hit the plus button and say, okay, I made an appointment. I sent out some emails. I did some phone calls. So like myself, what I just did, so I'm going to put a note in here. Worked with Aisha, or actually I'll just call it training admin staff. I worked with Aisha and created a training video for future staff on how startup sequence and Dream Hub work. I also went through some of the startup sequence and put things into Onenote. So try to be a little bit verbose with that, because that's nice and exciting when someone else comes into the company and they say, oh wow, okay, someone did some work here, this is what they were working on. It just shows movement, it shows progress. Okay, moving on after the think tank, let's say you get all of that done, might take 2-3 weeks. After you get all of that done, then you move on to automation. Once you're in automation, this is where you try to get rid of yourself. Create business templates so that you don't have work to do. If you're emailing a lot of people in the company, create communication templates. And this is an area where you can just type in, for example, how many communication templates you've made. If you have 8 communication templates, then you put 8 in there. And there's a lot of different ways to do communication templates, a lot of ways to have business templates. And then also, every good business needs an invoicing system. If you guys have an invoicing system, you choose complete. If you don't have a way to invoice your customer, then that definitely needs to be addressed here. If you don't have a virtual assistant, a virtual agent, then that needs to be addressed here. Also, the staff training hours. You can't automate a business unless you train your staff. So how many hours has the company invested into training the staff? How many recorded videos do they have like this one that they can hand off to future staff? That's what that's about. Then there's the GSA schedule. This is a very, very big portion, which I believe you did a little bit of training on already, correct?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so every company needs its own NAICS. It's a it needs to have its own DUNS number. After it gets its own DUNS number, we're going to have in here in this beginning portion the Nax code as well. It's kind of like a category of doing business. So you essentially go Nax code, and we can identify like which category you're in. So let's say software, and we do a search. And computer training. How about this one? Computer systems design services. So we can click on this and learn about it, and it should even tell us the parent number of this. So let's assume you're going to use that one. Then we want to figure out which GSA schedule mass means multiple award schedule. Which multiple award schedule is for IT services? And I might put in my OneNote over here, I'll have a new page. I'll put a whole new section. I'll have this section about GSA schedule. And then Nax. And it takes me there. And it says IT is one of 12 categories, formerly referred to as GSA Schedule 70 or GSA IT 70. This category covers a broad range of IT hardware, software, and services. Okay, sounds like that's what we need. So maybe I can click on this. And the thing is, you're not going to know the answer. I mean, you're new to business. Your boss doesn't even know the answer to this. So you just have to do research and guess. You'll know it's successful a few years down the road if it actually makes you guys money or not. So it's research in the IT industry. So you can read stuff like this and learn about it. And at the same time, there is something called the GSA E-Library. And we want to look at the GSA E-Library specifically for Schedule 70s. So here's the GSA E-Library, and you can look in here right for information technology, IT services, and let's look for one that's offering programming services, IT systems development, or even cloud productivity. People are waiting in the lobby. Did you see that?
Yeah, it's Zen.
Well, I can admit him. Hello, Zane. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
We're doing a recording right now. You can probably see my screen.
All right.
We're going over all the different GSA schedules. We've already covered quite a bit. Am I going too fast, Aisha?
No, it's fine, good.
Okay. So let's say this 54151S. Let's go back to see our OneNote. 541512. So as you get more into this, you'll realize you're probably in the category that doesn't have a bigger number at the end. The number 1 is a larger group. So you're probably in this main group here. And the fact that they have S, I would assume that's covering everything in that group. And it's going to say this is a multiple award schedule, and the 54151S covers all of this for database planning, design. You're going to want to talk to your boss to see, you know, is this the category we're supposed to be in? And as long as you just document things in here, that'll help keep that organized. And then the cool thing about how the US government works, all of this stuff is just here. Anybody can click on it. You can play around with it. All right, mine froze up for a second. So you can just click on like A1C partners, and you can click on that little button over there. And this gives you their full GSA schedule. And the cool thing about this one is a Word document. So you can actually take that link and you can go directly into your OneNote, paste that in there. That looks ugly. How about we call it the name of that business, A1C Partners. A1C Partners GSA Schedule Sample. Okay, and then I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to hit Control K on my keyboard and paste in the link that it goes to. So now inside of our notes, let me take those out and make a new page. So we have the Nax Sample Gsa Schedule. Okay, so it's pretty lengthy. It's very legal in how it's set up. Oh, it's only 8 pages. But this is kind of your ticket to really big business worldwide. Anybody in the world is allowed to do this. You don't have to be an American citizen. You don't have to be an American. Anybody can service to this. And this works the same way. If you want to service straight to Pakistan, straight to India, straight to Europe, whatever, they all use the same system called schedules. They have a few different names for it in different countries, but it's very, very similar. So learning it for one country is going to teach you for every country. And we save all of that inside over here. So we were in the automation area. Now, the reason that GSA schedule is so important, you don't want to keep on changing your prices of your services. This gives a literally like a 20-year contract to your client saying we will always give you the same price for the next 20 years on our service. And this is what we offer. So you're going to pick whichever GSA schedule you have. And in OneNote, we're just keeping notes of it. Once you get verified, hey, yes, we are doing a GSA Schedule 70. Then you want to come back in here, and that's where this Dream Hub helps a lot too. So we have dockets here, and those are where you're going to service those. Before you do that, though, you can go into the related area, go to your documents, and you can add, yes, the GSA document. So you can click new in here, make a new Word document. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to create a new Word document here. Sample GSA schedule from A1C. And be careful with these two. They could have viruses in them. I wouldn't really trust these other people on here. But I want to download this, open him up, but I'm going to open him in protected mode. I don't know if you can see this, but it says opening in protected view. That protects my computer from getting any viruses from it. And be very careful on what you copy and paste from anything you find, because this is how big corporations get hacked. All right, and all I'm going to do is copy all this information, hit copy. And then I'm going to go online on that new one that I made. All right, so here's our sample. And the format's not going to be the same. I'm just going to paste it in here. We can't paste this image from the clipboard. Yeah, so as you see, it's not 100% perfect, But for you to get an idea of what you need to do, this gets you very, very close to what you need. And if you did this for the company, that gives the business owner a lot of power. He can then take this back to very large contracts, very, very large conversations with entire governments to set up IT consulting. Okay, so so it's automatically saving. I'm gonna go ahead and close it out once that says saved. But in the meantime, let's go back here. Let's see what else this is asking for. So sustainability plan. Also, you don't have a sustainability plan yet. So if you don't know what that is, then let's just Google what is a sustainability plan. So this is a lot of stuff. How to plan for sustainability. What is a sustainability plan? Okay, so I'm going to copy this link. I'm going to go back into OneNote and let's go back here. Let's make a new page. Sustainability plan, and I'm going to paste that in there. So that's what we usually do. We start with OneNote, we keep all our notes here. Once it starts growing and it starts looking messy over here, that usually means you have a lot of research done. So you take all that research and you open up a new Word document, and then you start making chapters and doing really good inside of Word. Whoever knows Word really well and OneNote really well, man, you are very powerful in business if you know those two. And I don't care what sector, you know, I do a lot of artificial intelligence myself. I can't do really good AI unless I know Word and OneNote, because you have to get the grants, you have to get the contracts to be able to do that. So let me explain in my terms what a sustainability plan is. You still with me, Aisha?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was talking about the rockets before, and I said, you know, our first step is that startup launch, the startup sequence. But that's before we even launch. And if you think you're going to launch a satellite out into space, you have to think, how does that satellite, once you stop pushing it, how does gravity take over and make it perpetually go forward without you actually giving any energy yourself? That's essentially what a sustainability plan is. It's saying, how can you stop getting investors to fund you? How can you stop just taking money from another company to fund this company? You want this to perpetually grow, go into free fall, perpetual motion. So I would recommend you have an entire Word document here as well. So let's make a new one, Word, and let's call it your sustainability plan. Now, since you're new to that, I also recommend that you even look up a sustainability plan sample, just like we did for the GSA. Does that make sense? Okay, an example sustainability plan. Okay, so this could be one that you use. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go into OneNote and I'm going to paste it in here. And perfect, example sustainability plan. Okay, so let's go back and let's see what else. If you did all of that, I would be fine if this took 3 months to build just to get this far. We're on this section and we're 3 months in. But we finished this out. We're all the way at the bottom 3 months from today, down here. Next we move on to we start building relationships. We start a relationship with SAM.gov, which is the US government. We get commitment letters from partners that you can give those partners your GSA schedule, you give them your sustainability plan, you share with them who your SCORE representative is. This is a very powerful business now that you're just 3 notches in. The relationships show potential partners you're going to have. You get endorsement letters, you get commitment letters, you start gathering resumes from potential staff member, you onboard staff, and you also find related programs. So you would still keep track of all of this a little bit inside of OneNote. Again, your OneNote's your messy, sloppy area. and you could just brainstorm over here. The whole company can brainstorm here. Everybody can access this. But as it starts getting laid out better, that commitment letter should be signed, should be faxed to the company, or there should be an official document. And you can even save that right here in this area. I mean, you can make an entire folder here, and that one folder could just hold all your endorsement letters, all your commitment letters. And then you can hand that back over to the business owner or the business development officer, that they go out and do new business. Okay, so let's assume that we're done with relationships. We move on to the timeline. The timeline, you need to be tracking when your board meetings are, when you have agile plans. Have you set up DevOps yet in your company? Because after you have your company started, you're going to want to start actually operating that company. And your company gap in particular is a little unique in that you guys already started, and you started without a business plan. You started without, the GSA schedule. Most companies can't do that. They have to get this stuff down first before they actually open. So you have some stuff ahead already, all the way down here in the timeline. You already have DevOps done. Even the UX UI, I think you guys have a beautiful website already. Let me go check gap.co. Yeah, this is a beautiful website. This is $1 million website. So you would want stuff like this to work. So at that point in the company, in the UX UI, you want to go through whoever's doing the UX UI. That might not be you, Aisha. This could be a 6-month timeline before somebody even gets to right here. And who knows where you're going to be in 6 months. You could be doing research, another part of the company. So this is set up so that the first person, they go back and read over all the notes the first person put together. That's knowing the company. And then they study the orbital. You should now have inside your OneNote area, you should have an entire orbital inside of here. And that might seem confusing because we have 2 orbitals. We have orbitals here going up and down, and then we also have orbitals inside of OneNote. But like I've said many times, OneNote is just to keep notes. You can have your, let's do it just like we did before. You have your objective, and then you have your resources, budget, indicators, transports, activities, logistics. Okay, so you could fill all of that out here, just put a little scratch notes in, and then once you're ready to implement it, you move it back over to the actually dynamic area over here. So that's why you're going to always see things twice. OneNote, you get your brain together, and then you implement it somewhere else. So you can always work with a mentor as well. All this information here, it's as much for me and it's as much for my consultants inside of our consulting agency as it is for you, because I don't know what you've accomplished in your business yet. I need to see that tracked in here to even know what I need to recommend to you. So I need you guys to go in here and go through each piece of this in chronological order to get all the way over there. You have 2 different types of business owners. You have people like Zane. He loves to actually work. So he's all the way at the end of this production area before doing all the other stuff. That's one type of business owner. That's 50% of all business owners. They work without actually doing documentation. The other type, they only do documentation and they're scared to actually start. So those people, they're going to do all of this without your help and be really good at this, but they're never going to actually get a client. They're never going to actually do operations. And our goal is to merge those 2 archetypes together and provide a very good place for them to organize everything and actually go through that startup sequence. After the startup sequence, we then have a launch cycle. During the launch cycle, we actually launch your business. We get your first customer, and even though, yes, Gap is launched, it doesn't have its first $1 million customer. So it's not really launched at this point. After that GSA is out there and you get somebody that signs off on $250,000 with you, boom, you're launched. And you better have everything organized for that launch. Does all of this make sense?
Yeah, totally got it.
Okay, so how do we get you launched? That goes into this request area, and that goes into the dockets area. So we actually go out and look for requests, and we'll have a whole other segment on how we look for those requests, but we essentially already have some samples in here you can go off of. And especially since you're in artificial intelligence, I highly recommend to look through some of these to see some of the projects that we already have going on. So anyway, the request is here, and just the request alone, like this is a $5 million one. There's a fusion energy science one focused on machine learning and artificial intelligence that the U.S. government has. And we'll go through it, and maybe you'll find something that you're interested in, and you'll get the link to it, and you just put all of that information in here of what that potential project is. Then if your manager gives you the permission to, then you'll actually create a docket as a response back to that. So that could easily take 6 months just to learn how this works. But in this particular tutorial, I just want you to see we have procedures put together for this. We've had immense success with this in our approach. And we call this the grant method. So inside these requests, we go through one of these, and just like we had the startup sequence, we also have the grant accelerator. So this will accelerate how fast you can get a grant. And granted research, granted donations, or granted projects from any large organization. So I won't go into all the details of how each of these areas work, but the flow of how Dynamics 365 works, you always start on that first bubble. Once you're done filling everything out, you move on to the next one. And our job is to just create very good tutorials so that you understand what's needed here. So when you highlight these, it teaches you very easily. And then you want to link things dynamically. You can look for which docket you've linked that to. So we're going to be here to help you with all of that. I think that's all I wanted to cover in this tutorial today, but I would like to answer any questions you have on how that works.
No, actually, I have no question. You totally explained it really good. If I have any question in future, I'll totally let you know.
Okay, so what I would like to see next, let me find Gap again on here. Okay, so when I go into Gap, what I would like to see when I go in here is the structure over here. I want to see all of this first filled out.
Yeah,
And
I got it.
after all of it's finished, I want you to hit next stage, and I want you to get permission from me, Zane, to hit next stage, and then go in here from the top down. And then each day that you work, just type into the timeline what you did, what you accomplished, and even write more than me. You can have a whole paragraph there on what you accomplished, and even point to us, because that OneNote, like look what I did in OneNote today. I opened up like 6 different pages. I opened up a whole new section up here. So you could say, hey, I made 6 pages today. I opened a new section up. I did some research on GSA schedules. And then, I know it might be annoying, but also go in MS Teams and update us inside of MS Teams for that as well. Just tell us in that corporate group chat. Say, hey guys, check out what I did in the Dream Hub, and let me know if you have any questions. You can also say, if there's other people in the company in your department, you could say, hey guys, I'm going in Dream Hub now, and I'm working on the startup flow. Now, what I personally would like to see from you is this says it's been active for 6 months. All I want to do is track how long this takes. Like that right there says 6 months. So this should take you about 2 days. And then the next one should take 2 days. I would like to get to the point that you can finish an entire startup sequence within a month, within a week. That's my KPI of how I track how good somebody is in the admin department. Because we honestly have tons of things we're launching all over the place, and this could be a great sector that you thrive in.
Okay.
All right, so Zane, do you have anything to add for our recording? I don't know if you're even here.
Yeah, I'm here.
No, not anything. It's all cool. So
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and
yeah,
stop the recording, but I'll stay on.
sure.